2021 PHORUM Conference. I'm Dean Miller, President and CEO of PACT, and I'm excited to kick off this year's event, our 10th annual gathering of executives and entrepreneurs exploring the digital transformation of the enterprise. Over the past 10 years, PHORUM has leveraged the thought leadership of both enterprise incumbents and emerging companies to examine the digital disruption of the enterprise in a rapidly changing world. And that's a real understatement for what we have all experienced over the past year. This year's conference will focus squarely on the enterprise data journey. Through 4 one-hour episodes, our speakers will discuss real-world examples of how digital enterprises are accelerating through a global pandemic into a more connected world. Our PHORUM episodes are designed to be viewed live or on demand for your audience. You'll be able to watch and rewatch this week and next week's sessions, along with content from the 2020 PHORUM Conference via our interactive PHORUM community platform, as well as our website. There you can also connect with fellow attendees and meet our demo pit companies and sponsors. If you haven't received information on how to access that platform, reach out to the PACT team via our website, forumphilly.com. Before we hear from our first speaker in today's session, I'd like to acknowledge the support of our PHORUM presenting sponsors, Fairmount Partners and Anexinet. Thank you both. I'd also like to thank our PHORUM Steering Committee for their leadership, as well as thank all our PHORUM 2021 sponsors, many whom will be joining us on camera throughout the remainder of the series. Now, to introduce our first speaker of today's session, please welcome a long-standing member of the PHORUM Steering Committee, PACT board member, and past conference chair, Fairmount Partners Director, Alan Bourne.
Hello, I'm Alan Bourne, Director at Fairmount Partners. Fairmount Partners is an independent investment bank providing M&A, capital raising, and financial advisory services to emerging growth technology companies. We're proud to be a presenting sponsor of this year's PHORUM Conference. For the first segment of today's program, we'll be taking a look at the current state of enterprise innovation through the lens of our PHORUM Conference theme, the enterprise data journey. Our speaker has been a member of the PHORUM Steering Committee for nearly a decade, and each year proves to be an invaluable resource in helping our committee navigate trends and articulate them clearly to our audience. I'm happy to introduce Peter Coffey, Vice President for Strategic Research at Salesforce.
Good day. It's good to be with you for this first day of our major program of PHORUM 2021, the second time that we've done this in a virtual mode. And I'm very happy to have the privilege of kicking off today's first day of discussion. When we decided to focus this year on the subject of data, it was because very few subjects are generating such an enormous intersection of opportunity and challenge, regulatory scrutiny, timely relevance to the pandemic situation, in which many of us would agree we're now probably in an end game, but it's not a return to what was before. It's an acceleration forward into a future that's largely enabled by, accelerated by, intensified by the access to data and the ability to operate on that data that have been so important to getting us all through this and into what's coming next. And it reminded me of the line from the movie Doctor Strange toward the end. I don't want to do too much plot spoiling, but there is a key moment when someone who has torn a page out of a book of spells to achieve power for a purpose is admonished, you know, you really should have stolen the whole book. The warnings come after the spells. And in so many ways, we have been given the power almost indistinguishable from magic without necessarily having all of the warnings well communicated and certainly not well understood. Indistinguishable from magic, of course, is the phrase from Clarke's third law that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And I've often observed that most of what people think they want from data really is just a magic 8-ball that works. Everything else that we do is an unsatisfactory approximation to simply being able to ask, what should I do next? What is the best decision to make, the best action to take to get what I'm trying to accomplish? And of course, the problem is that even the magic 8-ball when it's only pretending to be a magic object, is inclined to give us answers like reply hazy, try again later. We don't like hazy answers. We want answers that are crisp. And so what we've done over time is begin in the 1950s with the notion of data processing. This is Google Ngrams data that shows the occurrence of this phrase in the entire corpus of books that have been analyzed by that enormous project. The phrase data processing comes essentially from nowhere soon after 1950 and achieves a number of impressive peaks, but then oddly seems to trail off, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You would think that the amount of data processing done in the world would actually be continuing to rise. Well, if you look at what happened around late 2008, 2010, you can see that big data plotted on the same axes hugely eclipsed the level of discussion of mere data processing. I mean, big data, that's the magic 8-ball. That's the chance to get in there and find the answers now that we can tease apart everything and read every tea leaf there is. And yet, there's an odd gap there where data processing is declining and big data hasn't come along. What was going on there? Well, again, let me replot the data on the same axes and add something else. Oh, right, spreadsheets. These came out of nowhere in the late 1970s, exploded into our attention in the 1990s, and remain high even now compared to even to the huge amount of interest in so-called big data. Spreadsheets continue to be where a lot of the world's data live and where a lot of the world's decisions get made. In a lot of ways, if we're going to talk about our desire for magic, spreadsheets should remind us of the character played by Mickey Mouse in the movie Fantasia of the Sorcerer's Apprentice, because once you've got one, you can have many. And once you have many, you can kind of lose control. The amount of data that's out there and the number of ways that it can be misunderstood, mishandled, made insecure, made incomplete or inconsistent, and ultimately misinformative, have led organizations like the European Spreadsheet Risks Interest Group, or USPRIG, to compile an impressive collection of what they call spreadsheet horror stories, actual, carefully researched accounts of companies destroyed, reputations lost, regulatory penalties and fines incurred because people had the power to summon the brooms, to carry the water, to move the data, to deliver the data, to summarize the data. But the warnings come after the spells. And when we look at where the money is going to be going in IT during 2021, my colleagues at MuleSoft, a Salesforce company, have compiled a data integration benchmark analysis for the year 2021. And this is a kind of small font, so let me blow up the two things that matter. Right after cloud and multi-cloud investment and security investment, of course, security investment in most cases is a form of data investment. The next two categories on that chart are data analytics and big data integration. Figuring out what the data is trying to tell us, if we would just pay attention, and tying the many sources of data together. Research that we've done with Deloitte shows the typical company needs to look in 39 places. The typical company, that's not an outlier number, 39 places to assemble a complete, coherent picture of its relationship with any single customer. Bringing it all together is, when done properly, capable of delivering results that are indistinguishable from magic. And when we look at the problems that data is being asked to solve today, getting us out of pandemic endgame and into a period of reconstruction of businesses, rehabilitation and upskilling of careers, we are admonished by this article that appeared just on March 26th in Sloan Management Review that the kinds of data we're dealing with today have time lags, have inconsistencies, have agendas. There are things people are looking to find support to do, the things they want to do. Being empowered to bring data to bear upon the problems we want to solve, being in a position of responsibility for preventing it from compromising personal privacy or misleading policymakers. These are powers with which We are entrusted by our access to technology with our understanding of the spells, and it is also our job to deliver the warnings. And I'm looking forward to seeing how these opportunities and challenges unfold over today and over the remaining days of PHORUM 2021. Thank you so much for the chance to be part of PHORUM once again. I look forward to it every year. And at Salesforce Strategic Research, we always say we're not about predicting, we're about revealing. And I hope that these PHORUM sessions will reveal many useful things and opportunities and actions you can take to you. I'm Peter Coffey with Salesforce. Thanks again.
I mean, I want to get rid of some mundane tasks. I'm trying to use my brain for more fun things, like being more creative.
I think the possibility for AI to augment the way that humans are able to work effectively and bring value to whatever they're doing in their jobs, in society, and overall in the world.
What excites me most about an AI-driven future is the opportunity to use AI to not replace humans, but to leverage humans to make them more scalable and more efficient.
What AI-driven future holds for you is a very customized, what I want out of the whole thing. So it's not like one-size-fits-all solution for our customers.
What excites me the most about an AI-driven future is the opportunity to have better outcomes for everyone.
AI can enable many new innovations which would not have been possible earlier. It could be in the life sciences space, it could be in the way we live, it could be the way we learn and interact with each other.
A safer life for my children as it pertains to automobiles. And they're entering a car without having to get behind the wheel and drive it, and the safety that lies therein.
That the AI is able to solve the problems that were never done before.
The idea that we can leverage vast amounts of data and customer insights to drive a future where technology and human partnership come together as one.
Okay, well, an AI-driven world should make my life easier, and that will give me more time to do what I want to do and to focus on those tasks which are really exciting for me.
Having anything you want and any information you want at your fingertips.
But I feel like it'd be the Jetsons. Like, I want to be in the Jetsons.
Hello, I'm Minnie Nair, Senior IT Delivery Manager at Vanguard. Vanguard is the only large asset management firm that is wholly owned by its investors and has no owners or shareholders. We believe that our company's success is defined by our clients' success. This philosophy has led to clients all over the world entrusting us with over $7 trillion of their investments. Our investment services are driven at its core by strong technology platforms. Today's panel discussion, moderated by Peter Coffey, will focus on the first step in our enterprise data journey, data as the new responsibility. As customers look to you to deliver an experience that only their data can enable, they are growing in their understanding about what they are trusting you to know. And regulators are increasingly intent on defining and enforcing your obligations. Our panelists are here to provide insight into how their organizations are rising to meet new expectations and mandates.
Good day. It's great to be with you all for this first day panel of PHORUM 2021. This is the second time we've done this as an all virtual event, and it's been so interesting to see how many people we've been able to bring together who might not have been able to make it to Philadelphia for the live events. So there is definitely, at least a pewter lining, if not a silver lining, in the cloud of being forced to do these things digitally. It's been also very interesting to have the intensifications and accelerations of the pandemic year really bringing to the fore a lot of the issues that really this year we are revolving around these subjects of data. And I do want to lead off with our panel discussion with that. I'm joined today by Suzanne DiCicco with SEI Investments, Mark McCreary with Fox Rothschild, and Nick Sana at Risklens. Mark, I wonder if I can start with you, because the recent visibility, the worldwide attention being paid to issues of data, and it's the combination of people being that much more dependent on data flows as they're working in virtual settings,
and also the sensitivity of data as we move into a world of pandemic contact tracing and so on. And I know that data incidents occupy a lot of your brainwidth. So I wonder if you can tell us what you've been seeing and what your thoughts are on the responsibility and the scrutiny that's being applied to the data community these days.
Sure, Peter, absolutely. So we've never seen anything like it, to put it shortly. Before the pandemic started, data incidents would occur. We would work on them intermittently at worst. Ever since we all started working from home, ever since the threat actors realized that we're much more vulnerable working at home in different environments with dogs barking and babies crying and our guards are down and we're in places that we're not normally used to working, the number of incidents and the severity of the incidents has really increased. Just by way of two quick examples. One is that we would normally see a ransomware event where they would come onto the computer, the system, the network, and they would lock everything up with encryption and they would just wait. They want to go ahead and just get money from you. That's all they would want. That changed dramatically where once the pandemic started, they started downloading data as a further lever, as a further way to make you pay for it. And we'd never seen that before. That was really a different way for the attack to happen. Another thing that we saw that was very common was we would see the targeted phishing. The drive-by phishing was one thing where people would just get snared in. But now they've become much more smart about how they do it. And they really go after people that are high value targets. They know where the data is. And instead of just guessing who they have, they're taking the time to figure out who's actually there. So other than the holidays, because apparently these folks do take the holidays off, we've never seen the amount of activity that we've seen right now. And it's been horrible for our clients, especially the ones that aren't prepared, the ones that don't have cyber insurance in place, and the ones that never practiced an incident like this. They've been in the worst position so far.
Suzanne, you're a risk professional. I mean, this has to be an environment in which you're being asked to quantify and to place value on the kinds of challenges that Mark has been discussing. I wonder what you've been seeing during the past year and what your thoughts are going into pandemic endgame.
Yes, thank you. It's a little bit of a catch-22, right? So at my entire career, I've been preparing for the possibility of a pandemic and the possibility that somebody might want to attack our data stores. And it's sad to say that it's now happened. And so I'm justified in my role and my team's roles, but it's been terrifying. Our threat landscape has just more than quadrupled. You add every home instance across 5,000 employees and heightening everyone's awareness of what they're doing with their data. So we've instituted a lot of things very quickly. Microsoft Teams, always on VPN. We have eliminated the printing capabilities except for a very small number of users. What I'm looking forward to is post-COVID, return to work. I'm looking forward to getting rid of all local printers. I'm looking forward to getting rid of file cabinets. That just lowers our risk profile significantly. And sadly, it's the pandemic that allows us to get there and get there very quickly. So while it's been brutal and painful for every single individual in our organization, it's totally allowed the focus of risk to be risen significantly. So now that everybody really is that first defense and really thinks about what they're doing with all of their data across the board.
Nick, one of the remarkable things about where we were a year ago is that people were coming to me and saying, that 2-year digital transformation plan that we had, I've now got 2 weeks to show a minimum viable prototype of something that needs to be deployed in 2 months or we're out of business. That acceleration created certain pressures on infrastructure. Suzanne has talked about needing VPN capacity, for example, to be dramatically ramped up. Mark has talked about the increasing awareness of the threat actors and their opportunities to apply more levers to us. But if people were to hunker down and say, well, wait a minute, let's go slow here, I think you'd have to have a conversation with them about what the economics of speed are and why you really need to be balancing both sides of that risk equation.
No, absolutely. I think that we've seen companies now retool their strategy to go to market fast, to be capitalizing on the customers and meet them where they are. And there's something to be said about thinking about the possible consequences of going fast without the considerations of protecting your data or being subject to potential breach. And so how do you find the right balance between going fast and going safe, also for the sake of the protection of your data. And the good news is that there are new risk assessment models in the industry that allow you to quantify the impact of certain strategies. So as an example, you would assess, what is the risk if we were to go to market with a certain architecture, and what are the possible consequences in terms of potential data breach, in terms of reputational loss, in terms of response costs and productivity losses. But what if we implemented certain type of control? A control the zero risk this way, a control the zero risk that way. Being able to do cost benefit analysis before you go to market and do it fast is paramount, because you don't want to launch a product and be dead on arrival because you lose your entire reputation because you had an unforeseen incident. And so do your homework, think like a business person. Don't look at data protection just as a technical argument. Look at it as a business problem that you want to solve.
I've observed many times that if we didn't believe in making sensible risk analyses, we would only allow payment in gold bars. Absolutely. The minute you accept a paper check or even paper money, you've said, well, there are certain risks I have to take to make myself available to and engage with my customer. Suzanne, I think Nick's comment about there are frameworks for quantification of the risk. That's probably a milieu which you in the investment community are quite aware of needing to apply. I'm thinking of Zach Quinto's character in Margin Call, saying anytime in the last 2 weeks we could have lost the net worth of the firm. Are you sure you want to keep these assets on our books? And I wonder if you've been having a lot of very interesting conversations about the calculus of risk, where data custody and data value are involved.
Yes, we are taking a very new and fresh look at our third-party risk and our fourth-party risks. So we have tons of vendors that we rely on as part of our straight-through processing for our clients. And we are not only looking at how we could tighten up our third-party risk program, because it's very solid, but also having very, very deep discussions with our executives around their risk tolerance and their risk appetite. So while we've always touted ourselves as a risk-adverse company, I think we need to quantify what we really mean by what is our risk appetite and what is our risk tolerance, and how can we really explain that to our executives to make sure that we're all speaking the same language. In the risk team, we are very focused on that. We understand that completely, but I think we really need to raise it up that level to our senior executives to make sure that they understand the decisions that they're making and what they really say about our risk appetite.
And you're presenting them with it's not a right or a wrong. It's be informed about the implications of the choice you're making, and be sure that you're making those choices, as we might say, by choice and not as a side effect of ignorance. Because ignorance is the hazard here. Mark, I've been using the line from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Doctor Strange. I normally quote science fiction and not fantasy, but the line, "You really should have stolen the whole book because the warnings come after the spells," is my favorite line from that entire movie. And I wonder, what are the warnings that you're most often finding yourself in a position to wish you'd been in a place to give? And when you go back in there to the smoking wreckage as the arson investigator, what are the things that you just shake your head and say, if only they'd realized what they were setting themselves up for, they'd only realized that this was a cleanup protocol or a damage minimization protocol that could have applied? What are the things you most often wish you had a time machine? You can go back and tell them, a week ago, no.
Yeah, there's two things really. One is training. It seems so basic, but I cannot stress enough of how easily people are getting fooled, how easy phishing emails can actually trick people, how we are pulled in 7 different directions, and suddenly that wire transfer instruction made sense to act upon an email only and not confirm it orally. There is rarely a data incident that I deal with where we're not dealing with training would have solved this problem. The other that's not quite as universal, but when it happens, it's very, very damaging, is retention or failure of it, where there's no retention, where I'll go to a client and I'll say, we're dealing with email, how far back does it go? And when I hear 1998, all I can basically say is, yeah, that's not gonna really fly well with Health and Human Services or with the state AG, or as I call them, aspiring governors. I mean, when they hear that all that data is actually held onto for that long, for no good reason, that's one of the biggest mistakes we see also.
Interesting. Except when you started talking about a retention problem, I thought you were going to say that people weren't keeping things long enough for proper investigation. I think I'm hearing from you that keeping things around when there's no legal requirement or no business value in doing it just creates more opportunities for attack and unintended breach.
Yeah, if I were going to get a tattoo today, it would probably say delete your data. It's amazing how much of a mantra that can be for a company that will save them a lot of trouble. Now, don't get me wrong. When you have an incident, of course, you do litigation holds and you make sure that the investigation can continue. But there is quite literally no reason to have data that's 7 or 10 years old. Most statute
and Suzanne, I'm getting such affirming body language from you on this. I'm thinking about bankers boxes to actually have
Suzanne's language. I love it.
The pre-filled in graphics on the storage boxes say destroy after, and like every piece of data when it's born should be born with a what's the policy, what are we legally required to keep. That's probably a conversation you have with people a lot.
Yes, every day. My mantra is anything less than forever is a win. If you're keeping data for some time less than forever, I'm very happy. But then it's really getting that. So once you get rid of the forever, then you can start talking about real retention timelines that are tied to your legal or compliance responsibilities. And then you just ease them into it, right? We just slowly chip away at it. We start with 7 years and then we back it off from there if we can. So yes, same thing. Anything less than forever, but really there's no reason to have anything, like you say, longer than 7 would be a very unique circumstance that you would need anything. But if it's useful, you keep it. That's the thing too. If it's something that you need and you use and it's older than 7, then by all means keep it. I'm not telling you to get rid of it.
And Nick, when you're having your velocity-oriented discussions with people, what do you find are the friction, gravity, and rust that get in the way of them doing good things with data? For example, to Suzanne's point, if they don't have a data retention strategy in the physical world of data, then trying to bring that in and deal with much greater quantities and velocities of data in the digital world is going to be even that much more of a challenge.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge we see is that the technical side of the house and the business side of the house have not been speaking. They are not used to speaking, and they speak different languages. Yeah. And so we gave the cybersecurity people and the data privacy people some money, go fix the problem. And then we find ourselves in meetings where we assess, we do a risk assessment because the data privacy team wants to bring in some encryption to encrypt the data, keep it safe. And then we find out, like was said before, that 40% of the personal information of our customer is that is not in inactive accounts is still in a database. And they look at one another. Who decided to retain the customer data for years and years, even the account is inactive? Nobody made the decision. Nobody was aware. The two teams were not speaking. And so the implicit decision was, we keep the data for convenience, for reporting, whatever, but nobody understood the repercussions, of keeping the data liability you have. So being able to have a risk approach when on a regular basis, the business people and the people in charge of security communicate, understand the trade-offs of various strategies, understand the implications of certain decisions is paramount. And I still believe that those discussions don't happen enough. The biggest problem is we're still operating in silos. We do assessments after the fact. We don't do it proactively before making decisions. We need to change our habits and saying, before making decisions, whether it's a certain architecture or not a privacy architecture, what are different applications, what are the trade-offs, and then we make a decision. We don't want to do assessment just because we just caught short, of our strategy. That would be a little bit of a failure.
Nick, without my asking you to, you've segued beautifully into what I wanted to do in our last few minutes together, which is to take this topic that we've got for today of the new responsibility and ask, well, what's new about it? And I'm hearing from all of you that there are, in fact, new responsibilities. You just talked about the degree to which we need to get out of the old responsibility, which is keep it up and running, and get into a new responsibility of maximize its value, which is a different way of discussing it. And Mark, I wonder if you would agree with Nick that the old success criterion used to be I kept the lights on, I kept the trains on time, and now we're talking about responsibilities for value creation and risk optimization that I don't really think have been part of the IT conversation in prior decades.
I agree with that, and I don't think they have. And I think I would look at it a different way, a little more of a holistic way, is that in the past, and it's changed for many companies in the past, kind of from the top down, it's been looked as somebody else's job, and somebody else will take care of it. And I think that's really you know, I can tell you with my clients, I've seen success in changing that mentality. That really, even at the top, there needs to be an understanding of what their responsibility is on a day-to-day basis, but also from a funding point of view, to make sure that enough money is in the budget to deal with tools and provide tools to the people that will actually protect the company. And I keep coming back, and I hate to be a broken record, but the individual is actually the responsibility is where it's most important, I believe. And again, it has to do with training. It has to do with individuals actually taking ownership of it. But I do think that's where it begins and ends.
And Suzanne, both Nick and Mark have just alluded to this problem of silos of responsibility as well as silos of technology. You used a phrase earlier in the conversation about I think you said third party and even fourth party risks, the degree to which we're starting to realize how much of our vulnerability or potential threat are not under our direct control, and the umbrella of our responsibility extends so much beyond the borders of the data set.
Exactly. Yes. Understanding that risk and being able to quantify it and to illustrate it so that the folks who are making the big decisions about the strategic direction of the firm understand that those things do in fact apply, instead of us always being that that barrier to making those fast business decisions or those good strategic business decisions. There's a reason why we layer risk on top of those things in order to make sure that it's the best decision that we can make based on where we see those other areas of larger risk. Absolutely.
And I think what I'm hearing from all of you is that to some degree, we can't amass the data and then say, now how do we protect it? Suzanne, you've talked about, from the moment a piece of data comes into the world, there should have been some conversation about how long does it need to be kept. Nick, you've talked about the degree to which all decisions about data should be based on a calculation of, what's the value of doing this quickly as opposed to the risk of doing it hastily, which are, not quite the same thing at all. And Mark, you've talked about the kinds of things you don't want to find in the smoking wreckage, the kind of facepalm moments you want to say, oh my gosh, why were we doing that at all? And if we get these three things right, if we create the data with an understanding of why it's being created, to whom are we accountable for what we've done with it, what's the value that's going to come from it, and what's the containment that needs to be put around it, that's not the old IT, is it? Mark, if you got a chance to tell yourself 10 years ago what your world in 2021 was going to look like, what would be some of the biggest changes you think you'd want to warn your younger self about?
Well, I think we talked about data minimization, and I think that's really important. I think the other thing, and I've had this conversation with many clients, is why did you collect it to begin with?
Yes.
Where there's a lot of data that's taken in because there was a mentality early on in the internet age of, well, I'll take it, and if I can do something with it later, great. If not,
Sure.
At least I have it. So that was a big change.
Yeah, no, they used to say that was what Amazon would do. They would record everything, figuring there's going to have to be a pony under there someday.
Sure.
and all the applications of machine learning are now finding out, Suzanne, I think you would agree, that it turns out sometimes you can connect the dots in ways that you never anticipated and create risks that you never foresaw.
Right. Yes. Just because you collect it doesn't mean that you should keep it and that you should use it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And Nick, it looks like you get to bat cleanup here as we near the end of our time together. I know you would urge people not to treat this conversation as a suggestion that they should slow down. This is not about going more slowly. It is about guidance and having good brakes as well as good acceleration. But I wonder, what the most positive thing we can say to people on the way out of this conversation might be.
I would say get into the initiatives, especially as it relates to also data, with open eyes. And I'm going to use a saying that's very well known as you cannot manage what you don't measure. Assess your risk, quantify your risk, translate it in business impact, and you're going to be much better off, and you're going to make a much better decision, a sound decision on what strategy is the most effective for your business.
Because making strategic choice is the new responsibility for data. I'm Peter Coffey with Salesforce, and I've been joined for this discussion by Suzanne DiCicco with SEI Investments, Mark McCreary with Fox Rothschild, and Nick Sana of Risk Lens. It's been so great to be able to be the heart of your first day of PHORUM 2021. Thank you all for joining us.
Hi, I'm Sean Dowling, partner at Osage Venture Partners, a venture capital firm located right here in Philadelphia that focuses on early-stage B2B software companies and proud sponsors of PACT and PHORUM. I'm excited to introduce you to the PHORUM Demo Pit. Each year, the Demo Pit features a dynamic lineup of promising early-stage companies and was created to allow startups to connect with C-level enterprise decision makers attending the PHORUM conference. Over the past 9 years, the PHORUM Demo Pit has featured close to 100 companies, and each year we honor one company as Best in Show. Past winners have gone on to raise more than $65 million in capital, and 1/3 of the honorees have successfully completed exits to strategic acquirers. We'll hear from 9 companies over the next 3 forum sessions. Our judges will review the pitches and announce this year's Best in Show at the final session of the PHORUM conference on April 22nd. But before we get to today's Demo Pit companies, let's catch up with Indico, a past Demo Pit finalist.
So I think that, this kind of goes without saying, but people are looking for the story behind what you're trying to do, right? You have to take them on a journey. You have to show them where you're trying to go, because they're not buying your product. They're sort of betting on where you're going and hoping that aligns with solutions to the kind of challenges that they see on the horizon as well. So, I think that was something that made our participation successful in 2018.
Hi, my name is John Brilliant. I'm the CEO of Celeri Health. By way of background, I'm a serial healthcare technology entrepreneur, having been part of the founding team and CFO of Maryland-based Welldoc, as well as a co-founder and CFO of Silicon Valley-based Bigfoot Biomedical. Celeri Health is a real-world evidence company that seeks to use patient-centric data to improve care and quality of life for people living with pain. We also work with drug and device companies to help them in their development life cycle. What is chronic pain? It's a biopsychosocial condition. There's a biological component, a psychological component, and a social component. And it's important to understand this because all too often we treat pain as one dimension. We seek to break it down into its 7 dimensions. Pain is the least data-driven disease in the world. In diabetes, we measure blood glucose every 5 minutes on a CGM. We use our Apple Watch to measure heart arrhythmia. In cancer patients, we measure tumor biomarkers and size of tumors. Yet in 2021, in pain, we still use a happy face, sad face, 10-point scale. This 10-point scale is costing us over $800 billion, more than cancer and diabetes combined. Yet we have as many people who suffer from chronic pain as we do cardiovascular disease. Borrowing a chapter from Peter Drucker, we seek to measure, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So we seek to treat every encounter with a patient as a clinical study visit. What does that mean? We seek to collect multi-resolution, high-resolution data, and it starts with our patient-reported outcomes assessment tool, where patients are completing assessments either in clinic on a tablet or remotely via text message or via email. Those assessments, once completed, go back into the EMR. We collect all EMR data, medical history and drug history. We also have procedure and device data that we marry together. And I'm happy to announce that we're going to launch 2 studies to obtain objective data. Using a device called Muse, we're going to measure EEG and heart rate variability data. And we're going to do a second study to measure urine biomarkers so as to marry objective data with subjective data. What have we accomplished in the past 2 years? We have 6 clinical studies, with our largest recently announced Medtronic study, where we're the exclusive provider of real-world evidence for their Intellis spinal cord stimulator. We operate in over 30 clinics across 12 states across the country. We've assessed over 50,000 patients who have completed over 280,000 assessments. We're on track to assess over 100,000 patients. We integrate with every EMR, and we doubled revenue in 2020 over 2019, and we seek to double revenue in 2021. We've all done this with a capital efficient amount of $440,000. We have a world-class team with domain expertise in executing in technology and healthcare, as well as clinical research, and we have some of the finest interventional pain doctors in the world on our team. We're asking for $2 million to grow our company. We want to hire a chief commercial officer to expand our footprint beyond devices into pharma. We want to hire data scientists and software engineers to expand our analytics and clinical decision engine. We want to grow our database to develop insights. We want to work with payers to obtain health economic outcomes as well. In conclusion, I'll tell you that quantifying pain is a multi-billion-dollar opportunity, the opportunity to create Flatiron for pain. We have a world-class team with a proven ability to execute, and we've been very capital efficient. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Tammy Williams. I'm the CEO and founder of Envision to Be Well, Inc. We save time, bring more wellness, and deliver better health. The problem that we have today is there are way too many apps. It's a fragmented market in the health, wellness, and fitness industry, and you have an app for this and an app for that. Data doesn't provide those nudges that's going to give you that engagement, that motivation, nor that inspiration. And siloed solutions, they really don't provide the seamless workflow that is needed. Our solution is Envision Well. With Envision Well, we are one resource that provides a seamless workflow for everything that is needed for your 360-degree well-being. Every feature in the app begins with my. So you have my motivations, my personal body blueprint, my challenges, my conversations. Think of Clubhouse, but on steroids. We have everything that is needed for your 360-degree well-being in one solution with a comprehensive suite of wellness providers and solutions. The market opportunity is huge. It is a $1 trillion opportunity, but that is not what we're going after. Our accessible market, it's $10 billion, but then we bring it down to what we're going after, which is a $100 million market. That is our sweet spot. The underlying magic, this is where the real stuff really begins. So you have an engaging interface. That interface allows you to move throughout the app from one to the next without losing any of your information. Then we have data. Data that is data upon data upon data, so many data endpoints that is pulling in, and we bring that knowledge to life for the user. Our artificial intelligence helps to bring that data together and gives you those pushes, those nudges, and helps you to understand what is really going on with your body, because it's your body, your health, your data, your life. And then finally, we're giving you the ultimate user experience. You know, it's about engagement. Engagement is where many of those apps and those solutions really fall off. And the fact that we sync with over 400 wearables, fitness, nutrition, in-home clinical and medical devices, we are bringing all of that into one solution so that we have you constantly knowing what is happening with your body. Our business model, we have threefold. We have health and wellness practitioners that start at a monthly rate. We're a SaaS-based company. We have self-insured employers and health plans, and then direct to consumer. We are B2B2C. Our go-to market plan, 3 main acquisition channels. Our marketing, sales, and partnerships. As you can see here, social media, public relations, those qualified demos, and then health and research organizations. We've identified repeatable strategies that we are doubling down on. And by the way, we are a woman-owned, minority-owned company, and we are really in it to win it. The competition is mostly in our space around coaching and around workplace wellness. As you can see, we have several of our competitors that are here. You may know most of these, but with Envision Well, we have a comprehensive suite of solutions and services that cover everything in one. Most of these are siloed. They may cover 1 or 2, but they don't touch us with all that we provide. Our key team, we have assembled a great team, very competent to bring this across the finish line. We have someone, Karan Mathusamy, our next-gen CTO, who was formerly a data scientist with the NBA, Margie Solomon, Jillian Johnson, Carol Payton, Helena Dzinski. All of us, including the rest of the team, are dedicated to bringing this home. Our financial projections, I won't spend too much time on this, but if you look at 2021 and 2022, this is where the real magic begins. We're looking at 3.9 in 2022. We are looking at a 5-year run to get us to about 63 million in net profit, and we are looking at an exit strategy in about 5 years. Our ask and use of funds, we are raising a seed round. We have 1.7 left to raise. We have bootstrapped over 400,000, and we have raised 465,000, of which 300,000 of this is from Ben Franklin Technology Partners Digital Health. The use of the funds is for continued development and enhancement of the product, developing our partnerships and alliances, as well as team compensation and some new hires. Our exit strategy is to be acquired, and we have several different avenues for which acquisition can take place: health plans, corporate entity, or a digital health company. And these are some of the recent selected mergers and acquisitions that have happened in this space. We are in a very, very sweet space, and it's a hot spot for anything that has to do with health and wellness, but with data that matters. Thank you very much for your time today. I am Tammy Williams, CEO and founder of Envision to Be Well, Inc. We are innovative, scalable, and integrative, and I thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Kristen McCann, and I'm CEO and co-founder of GoCoach. What is GoCoach? Essentially, it's a place to provide upskilling for all employees with our Coach Marketplace and a learning experience platform. Right now, we have a war on talent and a skill shortage that has amplified even more with COVID, where people are leaving companies at an alarming rate and they don't have the skills that they need to be able to do their job. The way that GoCoach works is that we serve companies, coaches, and coaches. Essentially, we're looking at this as an upskilling platform that works for everybody and meets people where they're at in their overall learning journey. With the way that we're working, coaches are getting the upskilling that they need to provide to the coachees that are looking for the help as learners. And companies are starting to see the return and demand for what they're looking for to be able to keep their employees and give them the skills that they need for the future of tomorrow. Essentially, with our mobile platform, we have a selection of AI, but it's also self-selection, and we're looking at overall data analytics and measurable ROI to really be able to help people meet them where they're at to continue on with get the skills that they need. With our platform, we've seen an increase of learner behaviorness. We've also been able to see that they have a solution and that they're able to move forward with it. They have a better understanding of the impact of others. And then we've also seen, more goal achievement and that the attainability of where they were at and to be able to get where they need to be tomorrow as far as skill fulfillment. We've been in business since 2018. We have over 55 clients and 0 churn. We continue to expand within these companies to be able to work with employees entry level to executive level and hard and soft skills. The way that we have grown our business, which right now is bootstrapped, is that it's been a combination of our content, marketing, and then also our referral engine, because the coaches are also part of our sales team. They're looking to get work, and we're looking to help them be able to help other individuals within their learning needs. Right now, just within GoCoach and our 55 clients, our GoCoach GAM is $74 million as we continue to move further within these companies to be able to impact more employees with upskilling and learning. And our average contract value size is around $45,000, and we've grown 378% year over year. Our projections with the 2.5 C round makes us grow, pretty much doubling year over year, and it really gets us even to healthy going into 2023, which is important as we continue to scale and look at other different acquisitions as to how we want to continue to build the talent development landscape. The use of proceeds are essentially going to be with sales and marketing and tech, and to continue to add on to the vision of what we're doing to provide upskilling to everyone right here and right now with our team. I put in $500K in 2018. We have $1 million slotted in, and we're looking to raise an additional $1.5 million. So the question for you is, do you want to go coach today? Thank you.
Thanks to this year's amazing lineup of demo pit companies. And don't forget to join us live on April 22nd at 10:30 a.m. where we'll announce this year's PHORUM Demo Pit Best in Show.
All right, thank you to our Demo Pit sponsors, Bentley Systems and Osage Partners, and to our first set of Demo Pit companies. We have 6 more Demo Pit companies to be featured in upcoming PHORUM episodes, 3 in our April 15th broadcast and 3 more on April 20th. We'll announce the Demo Pit Best in Show during our final PHORUM broadcast on April 22nd. We also have 3 more variations on our theme of the enterprise data journey to explore during each of those sessions. So check the conference agenda for a preview of those sessions and speakers. All broadcasts will launch live at 10:30 a.m. Eastern and will be available to view on demand afterwards via our PHORUM community platform. Remember to visit the PHORUM website, phorumphilly.com, for information on how to access that platform. This concludes our broadcast for today. And now I invite you to join us along with some of our Demo Pit companies and sponsors in our virtual networking lounge. You can find a link to that site in the live chat or in the agenda tab of the PHORUM community platform. Take care, and we'll see you at 10:30 a.m. on April 15th for our next PHORUM session.